Hello, America, and other countries that will soon be part of America. Coming to you from the left, I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall.
And I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right. And we have, Ted is a little out of practice. He's been on vacation. You can tell he's tan, rested, and ready, coming back from his undisclosed location. It could have been Antarctic. It could have been Florida. It could have been Delaware. We just don't know. And neither do you. And neither do you, the United States of America government, who track such things, apparently.
Well, no, more than apparently. I don't know if did you follow how the Trump administration purchased all of the flight data from all of the airlines. And so they now have every airline reservation, historical and future, with your name, where you went, what flight you were on, what credit card you used, etc.
They bought it?
They bought it. Yeah, like basically the airlines they own this thing, this conglomerate that controls that kind of information, and they bought that information from the airline consortium, and and obviously they will not use it for anything bad, except it's going to ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. Our favorite people who never do anything thuggish or fascist.
No, we love them as our own children. We truly, truly do.
As our own fascist children.
We, our own little fascist children. Yes, our own little goose-stepping babies. Listen, we've got a guest coming. I hope he's coming on.
Here. He's in the wings. We should introduce everything first.
I'm going to introduce him. And this is Ted. Ted, I'm not sure if you ever met. I don't believe you ever met Ricardo.
I do not think
so. The way
so.
I met him, he lived around the corner from me here in Hoover, Alabama. At the time, and his kids went to the same school. Bless you. And there he is. So let me give you his background very quick. He's Ricardo Aparicio, graduated Juris Doctor degree, cum laude, from the University of Miami School of Law. He is a member of the Florida and Alabama bars, as well as the U.S. Supreme Court bar, which he was just recently inducted into.
Most lawyers do not get to do that.
No. He spent over 20 years as in-house counsel to the General Electric Company and is currently the president and CEO of Aparicio Professional Advisors, LLC, providing consulting services to the real estate and construction industries. Ricardo, thanks for joining us.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So yesterday, day before yesterday, I can't remember. Yesterday, Ricardo and I actually listened to the oral arguments in front of the Supreme Court because we're, Ricardo, what's the word I'm looking for? Dorks?
Yeah.
And we listened to, ostensibly, I assumed the debate would be over birthright citizenship, which they seem to gloss over very quickly. I'm guessing there's unanimous consent in the court that, it's in the Constitution. It was decided many years ago, but the discussion actually segued towards universal injunctions, and do other courts, lower courts, have a right to do them? Solicitor General John Sawyer for the Trump administration also went on to say that the White House may not recognize appeal court. He certainly implied it, Ricardo. Appeal court decision, injunctions. So, I mean, all of this. It's a lot to unpack. And as a member of the SCOTUS bar, we had Ricardo come in. Yeah, it's impressive, man. Listen, it's impressive. You graduated from college. That's impressive to me. So
if you did it in 4 years, that's impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, he actually, may I brag on my friend Ricardo for just a moment? He also, Ted, graduated from a law school as he had a full-time job as an architect, and he had a wife and 2 children. All of them.
But does he still have the wife? Is the question?
Yeah, I still do. Surprisingly enough. Yeah.
Yeah. He still has the wife, still has the children, and now he has glorious grandchildren. And, but I mean, all of that's super impressive. So Ricardo, unpack a little bit of what we watched or what we heard yesterday.
Right. So like you said, this hearing yesterday was not about the merits of the executive order. As you know, the executive order was issued, I think, on day one by President Trump, basically instructing the agencies, the government agencies, to implement policies that do not recognize children born in the U.S. of undocumented aliens. As you said, that seems to run contrary to the clear language in the 14th Amendment. It certainly seems to run contrary to the few U.S. Supreme Court decisions that have been handed down over the past 100 years or so. But regardless, they issued this executive order, and almost immediately the administration was sued in a number of jurisdictions, challenging the validity of the order. The problem is, as we all know, that these issues get a while to be worked through the court system. The way the court system works, especially the federal system works, you have to go before a trial judge. The case is presented. It may take a year, it may take longer for the merits of the case to be considered. The judge will then make a decision whether the law is constitutional or not. And then the other party has a chance to appeal it. Typically, they go before a single appeal judge or sometimes a 3-judge panel. And at that point, again, they have to argue the case, they have to present it. And the appeal panel, again, may decide that the law is unconstitutional, the executive order in this case. Well, at that point, the administration then has the chance to appeal to the entire appeal court. They call that en banc hearing. So the entire group of judges in that particular district might decide to hear the case. And again, that takes time. When the decision comes down, if the administration then loses again, then they have an opportunity to go before the Supreme Court. And if they grant certiorari, then the Supreme Court reviews the case and handles that decision. I think Sotomayor yesterday, or may have been Keegan, talked about, 4 or 5 years for these things to work itself to the Supreme Court. Justice Roberts sort of jokingly challenged that and put the example of the TikTok appeal that worked itself to the Supreme Court. And so happened, as you know, Scott, that I was there in person for that hearing, because that was the day I was getting sworn into the Supreme Court bar. So I got to be there for those oral arguments in person. But whether it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years doesn't matter. You have an executive order that is affecting, in this particular case, thousands of people. What happens in the meantime, right? Whether it's enforced or not enforced, people are going to get affected by that executive order. So a tool that is often used, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level, is an injunction, where the affected party, the plaintiff, goes before the court and says, I got an issue with this new executive order. I think it's unconstitutional. But while we go through that entire process to eventually get to the Supreme Court and settle this, I want you to issue an injunction and keep this administration from enforcing the law. Now, injunctions are, and I don't want to complicate this too much, but injunctions are basically an equitable remedy, something that the courts allow in order to balance the inequalities that are not necessarily addressed by the law, right? So an injunction is an equitable remedy, right? And there are basically 4 elements to granting an injunction at any level, federal or state. Number 1, you have to prove before that judge that the likelihood of you prevailing in your case is substantial, right? Which in this case, the judges that were hearing this agreed on that they had a substantial chance of prevailing eventually before the Supreme Court.
Substantial. Can you define substantial? Is that
I cannot.
Does that mean significant or more or likelier than not?
I have no idea, Ted. And look, like Scott said, I have a Juris Doctor degree cum laude with honors. Okay, and I cannot define it. All right, is more likely than not, I would say. All right, but it's got to be a little bit more than that, right? Because again, you're ordering somebody not to do something that they wanted to do, and that somebody may be damaged by their inability to do that. All right. So in order to preclude people from just filing lawsuits that have no basis at all and then delaying what would be inevitable, the court says you got to have a case here. You got to have a substantial or substantial chance that you're going to prevail on the merits. Otherwise, we're not going to preclude this party from going forward with their particular action. All right. Then number two, if you're able to show that, you have to show that you, the plaintiff, the one that's asking for the injunction, are going to suffer irreparable harm if this injunction is not issued, right? Let's say in this particular case, the order not to recognize a newborn as a U.S. citizen, could have significant irreparable damage to that individual and to the mother that gave him birth in terms of getting medical aid, in terms of getting some governmental support, et cetera, and
avoiding deportation.
And being subject to deportation, right? So there's irreparable harm that could be caused unless, the plaintiff says, you stop this order from going into effect while we litigate the case. And then the third element is the balance of equities in terms of here. Is this, given everything that we know about this particular case, who's going to be harmed more substantially by an injunction versus not? All right. Is the administration going to be harmed more than the plaintiff if we issue this injunction? Right. So that's a balance of the equities that they consider. And then the fourth one is public interest. Is issuing an injunction in this particular case a matter of public policy or public interest that confers the court the need to act here. So that's basically what they were arguing about yesterday. And the underlying principle, which I don't think they gave enough airtime to, because they all are familiar with it. Everybody that's arguing the case and hearing the case at that particular moment are familiar with, is this issue of what is it that the federal courts are allowed to do and what are they prohibited from doing. Of course, you got to look at Article 3 of the Constitution, and also you got to look at the judicial acts that Congress has passed over the years. And one of the principles in general is that the court can only decide and act upon the case that is before it.